Yeah, hi folks. Yes, so many on the far left are completely insane and ignorant, and Jim Acosta from CNN takes first prize. Now folks, as you watch this video, you may see some similarities between Ardern and Biden. Anyway, I'll start this off with Jim Acosta.
Ignoring him will not make it go away. If former President Donald Trump's rally in Iowa last night proves anything, it's that his toxic dishonesty and his potent base remain a major force in American politics in a warped way, sustaining one another. His latest audience in the critical state of Iowa, which recently gave him his highest favorability rating ever. The crowd was soaking up his latest stream of disinformation consciousness.
First of all, he didn't get elected. Okay, forget that. But some people said, oh, sir, it was COVID. Hillary conceded. I never conceded, never. When you hear these numbers of swing states, there was no reason to concede. They should have conceded. It was supposed to be something a little different than make America great. It was supposed to be keep America great. But America's not great right now, so we're using the same slogan, make America great again. And we may even add to it, but we'll keep it. Make America great again, because we already did it, right? We're going to make America great again. Mitch McConnell should have challenged that election, because even back then we had plenty of material to challenge that election. He should have challenged the election. Schumer would have challenged the election. But Mitch McConnell didn't have the courage to challenge the election. He's only a leader because he raises a lot of money and he gives it to senators. That's the only thing he's got. That's his only form of leadership. He should have challenged the election.
Yes, here we go again, sandwiched in between those endless election lies. Trump dropped some serious breadcrumbs. No, it wasn't just the Iowa State Fair food vendors on site. Trump was indeed hinting at a 2024 comeback. We observed Trump in his natural habitat, simultaneously wooing his supporters while marking his territory in only the way he can, and what seemed like an early warning to other Republican presidential hopefuls who, incidentally, may now be growing a lot less hopeful. Joining me now is Trump biographer Michael D'Antonio. He's the author of the book, The Truth About Trump. Michael, first, does it seem clear to you that Trump, he can't resist dropping those breadcrumbs? It used to sound like a grift. And it may still be a grift, but it seems to be a grift moving in a certain direction, and that is running again.
I think you're right. I think he is running again. And one of the things that he can't resist is tormenting everyone around him, except for his fans. So he loves that he's making Mike Pence and the others who want to run in 2024 uncomfortable. This is something he takes relish in. And I think the Hill reported late last week that the majority of Senate Republicans wish he would just go away. And when he sees reporting like that, the effect on him is to encourage him to keep doing this. So he's soaking up the adulation, but he's also reveling in trolling the GOP, at least the part of it that isn't on board with him.
Yes, the trolling is very familiar, and that slogan, make America great again, it doesn't sound like he's even trying, but the signs that were everywhere at this rally saying, save America, I mean, that is just the most Orwellian thing that I can think of. I mean, America was saved from him.
America was saved from him. Now, how ignorant can a person get? Biden saved America from Trump? Really? Let's have a look.
And now the Biden administration, they are planning to send more money to, let's see, oh, that's right, the professional and business-like Taliban terrorists. They're calling it humanitarian aid, but in reality, where I grew up, that looks an awful lot like a massive ransom payment.
Yep, exactly what Ardern did.
To terrorists. Now, tonight it's clear everything Biden touches becomes an unmitigated disaster. I can't cite a single success. Afghanistan is a huge, massive crisis, unprecedented.
What do you make of the developments, the increasing tempo in the number of Chinese flights across Taiwanese airspace?
This is extremely concerning, Kieran, and it is an absolute indictment of 8 years of Conservative government that we're no more capable of making any military contribution to anything that happens in our region now than we were 8 years ago. But what Beijing has been doing this week is extremely disturbing. First of all, it's been sending more than 50 flights a day into Taiwanese airspace, including planes that are capable of carrying nuclear weapons. It forces the Taiwanese Air Force to respond, and the Taiwanese never know if these raids presage an actual attack or are just designed to intimidate, frustrate, and humiliate them. At the same time, Beijing has been saying very explicitly that it could go to war to reclaim Taiwan. Now, at a time when, just incidentally, we've guaranteed that we have no capacity at all, and when they see America in a moment of great weakness after the debacle in Afghanistan and with a president who's clearly, past his best, I think the risk that Beijing is tempted to take military action in Taiwan is growing.
Exactly. Yeah, this is a direct result of Biden's stuff up in Afghanistan.
And this sort of bellicosity and these military demonstrations all this week, although they are timed to coincide with Taiwan's Independence Day, and they do this sort of thing every year, but not at this level of intensity, this is extremely disturbing for the whole region.
Yeah, thank you, Biden. And Islamic terrorists have also been emboldened by the Taliban victory.
Hello, I am a messenger. I come with a warning.
He had left warnings in English as well as his own language on social media. An arrow embedded in a wall is the aftermath of what Norwegian police say was a terror attack using traditional weapons. The police had rushed to the centre of Kongsberg last night following reports of a man using a bow and arrows to indiscriminately attack people gathered outside shops. 5 people were killed and others injured before 37-year-old Espen Andersen Brathen was arrested.
We want to head overseas now. Authorities in the UK are calling the fatal stabbing of a lawmaker on Friday an act of terrorism. Police say an early investigation has revealed a possible link to Islamic terrorism. The long-serving member of Parliament, Conservative David Ames, was stabbed repeatedly while meeting with constituents at a church in England. A 25-year-old man was arrested in connection with that attack.
Yep. So they'll have to ban bows and arrows and knives now.
I've never seen or thought I'd see this in my life. Look at the border, another catastrophe. COVID-19.
The very first civilization that migrants come to when they walk through the Darien Gap is this village behind me of Bajo Chiquito. And it's about 400 Indians who live here. They have no running water or electricity. But today they're receiving 800 to 1,000 migrants every day coming through the jungle into their village. And it's turned the village into an open pit sewer.
The migrants come from all over the world, and the majority right now are from Haiti. They've heard that pregnant women and families with children get preferential treatment when they get to the U.S.
Biden's doing.
So record numbers of children are being forced to make the deadly 6-day walk through the jungle. Many, like these Haitian kids, arrive in Panama without their parents, leaving the government to determine what to do with them.
¿Cuántos años tienes tú? 6. Tú tienes 6 años. ¿Y ella?
Lucila Velasquez is the wife of the mayor. She says the children suffer the most.
La cantidad de 5,000 habitantes aquí. En los niños que ya que vienen 8 o 10 días en ese camino de la selva del Darién, pasando hambre, se mojan con la lluvia, por cuestión de la naturaleza, obvio que no podemos detenernos, ¿no? Y lamentablemente hay pérdida de vida de niños atravesando ese territorio, la selva.
So we've been here about an hour, and this place is an absolute madhouse now. Like like nothing we've ever seen here before. They're coming nonstop out of the jungle, always in very bad shape, and they're trying to get them out of here as soon as they can. So they put them on boats and send them downriver to the camp down there, which is also full.
And there are 60,000 of them coming in this caravan, and there are more coming after that.
How big a national security threat is it, that border?
I think it's a real big issue. So knowing that we have 400,000 documented gotaways, when we have less situational awareness than we've ever had before, what we know about every single one of those is they did not want to meet a law enforcement officer. They were not surrendering. They were not claiming asylum. They were doing everything they could. They probably paid extra to be able to go through one of those gaps the cartel controlled.
So when you hear Secretary Mayorkas say the border is as secure now as it was before, what do you say?
That's just not true. He knows what's going on, and he knows that border is not as secure today as it was on January 19th.
Talk about the border wall. What were the instructions after the transition of administrations when it came to the wall?
So a presidential proclamation came out, and it was a 60-day pause that it's publicly available. We're supposed to do an in-depth study and then come up with a plan going forward. So Border Patrol did its part, everything. That was done within about 2 weeks. Several briefings later, there really had not been any decisions made. It went well beyond the 60 days. Many of those projects today are just still on hold. So we're paying contractors. For a while, it was almost $5 million a day between DOD and DHS to not build the border wall. There's
wait. $5 million a day to not build the wall.
To not build a wall,
even though they have.
Yeah, Biden is paying contractors $5 million a day not to build the border wall, and that guy there is Biden's former Border Patrol chief.
Have all the stuff they have.
There are stacks and stacks of border wall panels. There's hundreds of miles of fiber optic cabling. There's hundreds of cameras that were being installed with that are just sitting. There's no action being taken.
So what do they say when the briefing is, well, this really helps us? If we could just plug this in, if we could just finish this thing, what do they say?
We're not building more wall.
Not building more wall.
COVID-19 is now worse under Biden, despite being gifted 3 vaccines, a vaccine distribution program, a wealth of knowledge about therapeutics, monoclonal antibodies among them. The economy is now a complete and utter train wreck. We have a lot of details we'll give you, especially for low and middle class and middle income Americans. We have inflation, shortages, unemployment. We will detail all the latest troubling statistics. It's chilling, actually, and perhaps of all, the worst of all, Joe gave in to the environmental extremists, and he abandoned the energy independence that Donald Trump handed him, and now all of us, all of you, are suffering because of it. Police.
Yeah, and this will come down to, this will be passed on down to New Zealand as well.
Healthcare workers, first responders, teachers. Yeah, many are now being forced out of their jobs. They are leaving in the middle of an employment shortage, all because of Joe's vaccine mandates. I thought if we got the vaccine, we protected ourselves. Apparently, like with everything else COVID-related with Fauci and Biden, it changes daily. With multiple major crises spiraling out of control, Americans are turning on the Biden White House. 3 new polls show Joe Biden underwater by double digits. According to Gallup, Biden's support among independents, it is now cratered to just 37%.
Yeah, now what part of 37% doesn't Acosta understand?
And now anti-Biden chants, they are breaking out in stadiums and sporting events, Talladega, at the Ryder Cup, football games nationwide. Take a look.
Yeah, did Acosta miss this?
And that is not the only anti-Biden chant that is now trending across the country. Let's go, Brandon. That's also a new favorite among Americans because of this special moment on NBC. You have a NASCAR driver winning a big race, Brandon Brown, after his big victory at Talladega. Well, the reporter actually thinks they're cheering Brandon. When you listen closely, No, they're not. Take a look.
Just such an unbelievable moment.
Brandon, you also told me you can hear the chants from the crowd. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon, really.
No, they weren't chanting, let's go, Brandon, at all. You, the American people, have every reason to be angry at Joe Biden. He is failing this country around every turn. Every American is paying the price. The world is paying the price. Inflation is now costing American families, households, $175 extra every month. In other words, that is a $2,100 annual tax on every single household in the country, regardless of income, compliments of Joe Biden's horrific economic policies. The cost of eggs, meat, poultry, fish, that's up nearly 20%. On top of meat and processed meat, guess what? A predictor that steak will now become a champagne-like luxury only available to the wealthy. And the CEO of Kraft Heinz, they're warning that rising food prices are not going away. Meanwhile, look at this. The cost of cotton is up a whopping 47% to date. That is a 10-year high. Right now, we have a 30-year high in terms of inflation indicators. In other words, any clothing you buy has cotton in it or plan on buying is going to cost a lot more. The cost of raw materials also surging. The cost of motor vehicles, car parts is surging. Almost every single thing you buy is now more expensive.
Yeah, and this is happening down here as well.
At the core of all of this massive inflation, rising energy costs and gas prices, all caused by Joe Biden. In one of his first acts as president, Joe Biden artificially reduced America's oil and gas supply capabilities, and in the same time, he literally lowered the supply chain of the lifeblood of the world's economy, energy, in the stroke of one pen. He halted the Keystone Pipeline, and he gave Vladimir Putin, yes, a special waiver to build his pipeline. As a result, natural gas prices are up a whopping 112% since January.
And this will happen in New Zealand when our gas runs out, thanks to Ardern's policy on no more offshore gas exploration.
Biden is making Russia rich again. Oil prices are up 65%. $5 a gallon gasoline is now a reality in New York, California, and soon probably a gas station near you. Of course, diesel prices, they're also surging. Everything that you buy in every store gets there via truck. Those trucks, they use diesel. Now, these extra transportation costs, they're going to be passed on to you. Part of the Biden inflation tax, the consumer. Add to this another major problem, that's America's supply chain. That's in a state of chaos because of America's worker shortage. Cargo ships off the coast in California and New York, they're piling up, unable to unload their containers. And meanwhile, goods are now piling up in warehouses because of a lack of drivers. Now, nationwide shortages, that's become the norm. Walmart, Costco, they're now rationing toilet paper. Tires are becoming hard to find for your car or truck. Look at your screen. Grocery store shelves are going empty in some places.
And this is just starting to happen in New Zealand as well, especially with American goods and other imports.
Those images from Tennessee. Economists are warning many Christmas presents for your kids, they're not going to be arriving in time for the holiday season.
Yeah, and Trade Me is warning of that as well.
Even more troubling, a looming shortage of school bus drivers. One transportation expert is now predicting this driver shortage alone will remain severe all year long. And as you can see, the economy, another Biden preventable catastrophe. Yet Joe Biden and his fellow Democrats, they're just determined to make it worse and worse with trillions in new spending and new taxes that will be passed on to you. That is a move that will cause inflation to skyrocket even more. But as Jen Psaki explained earlier today, Democrats never let a crisis go to waste. Take a look.
The president wants to make fundamental change in our economy, and he feels coming out of the pandemic is exactly the time to do that. And if we don't do it now, if we don't address the cost of childcare, to go back to Josh's question earlier, if we don't address the climate crisis, if we
Antarctica's South Pole has completely frozen over during the coldest ever winter on record, even as scientists sound the alarm bells on melting ice caps and global warming. Between April and September this year, the average temperatures at the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station dropped to a bone-chilling 61 C, 78 F. These were the coldest average temperatures recorded in the Antarctic South Pole since records began in 1957, but may come as a surprise to most.
Yeah, I hope Ardern's listening as well.
We don't ensure that universal pre-K is a reality now, we're not going to have the same opportunity to do it for some time.
We won't have the opportunity to do it for some time because hopefully you get voted out in the midterms. Anyway, sadly, the new Green Deal socialist spending programs, that's what we need to worry about, and we cannot afford the trillions of dollars they're going to borrow and spend. Governor Newsom out in California, he's now even banning gas-powered lawnmowers and chainsaws in California.
Yeah, that'll come down here.
I hope they don't do that to weed whackers. I love my weed whacker. And the Biden administration's new vaccine mandates are forcing thousands of teachers, police officers, first responders, healthcare workers, and yes, our military are opting out of their jobs in the middle of a pandemic, a nationwide worker shortage on top of it. One positive development, a federal judge ruled in favor of healthcare workers seeking a religious exemption from the vaccine mandate. Over the weekend, Southwest Airlines, they were forced to cancel more than 1,000 flights because of a suspected sick-out protest against the company's new vaccine mandate. And that's not stopping the Biden administration or the great flip-flop. I've been wrong on pretty much everything. Dr. Fauci, you know, the guy that helped fund the Wuhan Virology Lab, from floating a truly insane mandate for all Americans that want to fly in a commercial airplane. Take a look.
Would you like a vaccine mandate for air travel in effect for the holidays?
Well, it depends on what you mean. If you're talking, you know, we do now have a situation when people coming in from outside of the country who are not United States citizens, they really must require that they get vaccinated as well as getting tested before. On the table is the issue of mandates for vaccine. It's always discussable. We always wind up discussing it.
Do you support it?
But right now, I don't see that immediately. You know, Dana, I don't want to say support or not. I think it's a decision that's made by input from a number of parts of the government, including public health.
All right, soon, if Joe Biden gets his way, millions of Americans will not be able to get a job or even travel. But don't worry, I'm sure that they will have no impact on our already struggling economy, right? And at the center of our current economic crisis, yep, there he is, the weak, frail, cognitively struggling mess, clueless Joe Biden, experiencing even more cognitive decline today. Another 3 p.m. early afternoon lid. He needed his nappy time. And Joel, while he's asleep at the wheel, his radical advisors, they just take over. Who they are, we don't know. And they want to fundamentally reshape this country, and they're saying so. They want to upend the greatest economic engine on the face of this earth, the greatest wealth-creating system on the face of the earth. They want open borders. They want amnesty. They want womb to the tomb, cradle-to-grave entitlements we cannot afford for every single person unable or unwilling to work. They want to turn the United States of America into their socialist, leftist, statist utopia. And they must be stopped at the ballot box before it's too late. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey.
Now, folks, I just want to continue a bit regarding the pilots and vaccine mandates.
One of those good people is Joshua Yoder. He's a commercial airline pilot. He's co-founder of the group U.S. Freedom Flyers. He joins us tonight. Mr. Yoder, thanks so much for coming on. So, summarize for us, pilots who have raised questions about these mandates have been, as noted, dismissed as criminals, terrorists. Tell us your motive in resisting this mandate.
Tucker, thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Yes, my motive for resisting it is primarily religious for myself. Basically, I saw, among my friends, I saw a need. Many of us don't want to take this. People were being coerced. I believe in freedom, and I'm here to support the freedom of my fellow employees and all people across this country. I'm not going to take a mandate. I'm not going to be coerced into doing something that I don't believe in.
So there are two levels in which to assess this. One is the level that you just described, the level that preserves American society as we've known it for 250 years with freedom at its core. Because if they can make airline pilots do this, they can make airline travelers do this, and there's no end to what they can make you do. But describe, if you would, since you work in the business, what the effect on our national transportation infrastructure is about to be because of these mandates.
Well, as we know, the transportation sector is the heart and soul of this country, and it's a very delicate system. If there's a disruption in one part of the system, it has a catastrophic effect among the rest of the system, which is going to affect commerce, it's going to affect trade, and ultimately it's going to affect the economy. If you have flights reduced by 30% because 30% of pilots are fired because they won't take the vaccine, this is going to affect how your goods get here from overseas, how they're distributed to the stores. You know, the same thing's happening with the truckers. It's happening in the shipping industry. Those Amazon boxes that typically show up in 2 days, you might be looking at 3 weeks.
So, I mean, it turns out that people with essential skills like airline mechanics, air traffic controllers, and yes, commercial airline pilots have more power maybe than they realized. You got to wonder, if people are being pushed to the point where they're going to be fired, how many more of these sick outs, job actions, whatever, strikes, whatever you're going to call what we saw this weekend, how many more of these do you think we're likely to see?
Well, first of all, we have all the control, and the control comes from a simple word, and that's no. We just don't need to comply. As far as I'm concerned, I will never promote a sick out or a work action. That is illegal. With U.S. Freedom Flyers, the organization that I'm with, we will never promote such a thing. With that being said, we also cannot control the actions of individuals. And I think that you will see massive disruptions in supply chain and in your travel if we just stand up and say no. If these companies fire us and they fire 30% of the workforce, aircraft are going to stop moving. And it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your air travel, and it's going to affect the economy.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to see a lot more of this as the fight back against vaccine mandates begin. And you've probably seen the start of that in Europe with a massive, massive protest against vaccine mandates.